Ashley Benefield, a former model and ballerina, finding herself at the center of a high-profile trial after being accused of shooting and killing her husband, Douglas Benefield. Claiming self-defense, Ashley's case sheds light on the complexities of domestic violence and the legal challenges that arise when trying to prove justifiable force. All this weekend on the Hidden Killers podcast, we're examining the case of Ashley Benefield, examining the events leading up to that fateful day in their Lakewood Ranch, Florida home, and the allegations of abuse Ashley made against Douglas. We're taking you to the courtroom for raw audio from the Stand Your Ground hearing of Ashley Benefield all weekend here on the Hidden Killers podcast.
June 1st of 2020 is the order appointing him.
No, that's when he started his evaluation.
All right. That's what I thought it was for. So then I need to understand again, what is the purpose, what's the relevancy of Dr. Broder's observations of seeing the child have positive interactions with the father? And again, my assumption, I'm sorry, I assumed, was that somewhere along the lines the parties saw the report or knew about the report, and then your theory was then the defendant said, oh, now even Dr. Broder's not supporting me, now I have to do something else.
And I ultimately do believe, and that's what I would be arguing in a trial, that is actually what was happening. I think it's the state's argument that the defendant knew that this positive information was going to probably come out in this report.
How? How do you know she knew that?
I know from some of the interactions that were going on between her and Dr. Broder, and some of the interactions that were going on in it for, the three people with Dr. Broder. I could impute it to her that she could see what was going on, and she could see, how Dr. Broder was leaning. And that she knew that that report was going to come out and be given to Judge Moorman.
So now if I'm understanding, it's going to be Dr. Broder's observations of the interactions of the decedent with the child in the presence of the defendant and how those were positive.
I don't know. There were some that were not in her presence and some that were.
All right. Then to the extent, I don't see any way to make it relevant to any issue that I need to determine, but for what effect it might have on the defendant. So to the extent there were some observations of positive interactions between the decedent and his daughter when the defendant was present in the presence of Dr. Broder, I'll allow that. But then that's about it.
Sorry, if you could repeat that. Just
positive interactions between the decedent and his daughter in the presence of the defendant and in the presence of Dr. Broder, and then I can see how that fits in, and that is relevant to your position. Otherwise, I just don't see the relevance of it.
And my only other argument, Judge, and you may still have the same opinion, but it also goes to the defendant's credibility, saying this child is abused, this child abused, this child abused, this child abused, and the child was acting like this, and her credibility is exactly what's at issue in this case. So,
and that's why I asked about the date. That's why I wanted to know when was he making these observations,
right,
to see if it coincided with the reports that were being made, and it doesn't. It's several months after.
Say it was 6 weeks to 2 months afterwards.
It was. So, no, that'll be what I'll allow.
Okay, so let me make sure I have it straight because it's late. So we're not going to talk about the interactions not in the defendant's presence.
Correct.
And we're not going to talk about diagnosis.
Correct.
Okay.
Unless those later on become relevant.
Okay. In like a rebuttal or something.
Sure.
Okay.
Does the court have any thoughts on cross-examination about my continuing to attack the nature of Douglas Benefield.
I'm just going to leave that open to whether it's within the scope of direct or not. It may not, and it may be. I don't know. But if it's not, then yeah, I would sustain because it's beyond the scope of direct, and then you could call him, and then it may be relevant. It may be admissible. I didn't mean relevant. Admissible is the word I want. All right.
And Judge, if I could just have a moment to let him know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Madam Court Reporter,
Yes, sir.
you need a break?
I'm okay, thank you.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. This way first.
Oh, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Good afternoon.
As the deputy said, just 12 to 15 inches from the microphone to adjust up, down, left, right, wherever you need it. Just a good, clear voice will pick up everything. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Please state your name.
Good afternoon. Dr. Brad S. Broder,
How do you spell it?
Broeder.
And it's Brad S., you said?
Yeah, S for Stephen.
Okay. What is your profession?
I'm a psychologist. Clinical psychologist is my degree.
How long have you been doing that?
I received my degree from New York back in February of 1987, and then relocated here to Florida. Started my practice in January of 98 after I was licensed here in Florida. So this is year number 36.
Okay. And what do you currently do? Do you have your own business? Do you have a practice together with someone?
I'm a solo practitioner. I have run my own business, but I do serve as a consultant to Sarasota County and Manatee County Child Protection Team.
Okay. So what is your education to be a psychologist?
Well, I first earned my master's degree in counseling psychology and then went on to pursue my doctorate in clinical psychology.
And you have a sole practice, you said?
That is correct, yes.
And you do consulting work for the county? And who is that?
Judge,
Yeah.
I think in light of the court's ruling, I don't have any problem acknowledging him as an expert, and we can get on with the limited nature.
Okay.
That's fine, Judge. I just want to establish that he consults for CPT.
All right. I think that was the last thing I wrote down.
Yes.
Yep.
And what does that mean, consult for CPT? What do they ask you to do?
Well, each county in the state of Florida is supposed to have a consulting psychologist because that person helps with the in-service trainings as well as attending the multidisciplinary staffings, consulting work to advise, and then if need be, called in to conduct evaluations either of a parent, a child, or both parents.
And you said that you consult with them. How are you notified when they need you?
Usually the team leader or director will contact me and let me know that what's my availability to attend to staffing. And once or twice a year, I'm kind of on call, let's say, to conduct seminars or workshops.
Okay. And what is a staffing?
The staffing is referred to as multidisciplinary staffing when you'd have different people that are concerned about a case. Usually if the CPI, Child Protective Investigator, has responded to an abuse call, that they will, if based on their concerns, their impressions, their observations, they may then request from CPT, the Child Protection Team, to do an overall evaluation. And based upon that, if there's some concerns or people are undecided or unsure, then we kind of meet as a group. And those people would usually be the DCF representative, supervisor, the CPI, the caseworker from the CPT team, the director or coordinator from the CPT team. If there was a medical examination conducted, there would be the nurse or practitioner there. Pardon me, myself, and usually the invitation goes out to anyone else who might know the family, the parent, or the child.
How did you become, or let me ask you, did you become involved in a case involving Ashley, Doug, and Emerson Benefield?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How did you become involved in that?
I was contacted by Ms. Kimberly Griffin from the Manatee County Child Protection Team. She was at that point the team coordinator, and they had concerns based upon
Objection.
Also staying as to the substance of issues
Okay.
that may have been communicated.
Based on, let me back up. So Kim Griffin is with, which agency did you say, CPT?
Manatee County.
Manatee County. And had she, to your knowledge, been involved in several prior complaints against Doug Benefield lodged by Ashley Benefield?
There had been 3 complaints in total starting in December of 2019.
Okay. And you were asked to evaluate her, Ashley Benefield, correct?
That's correct.
And were you also asked to evaluate Doug Benefield?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your purpose of, what is your goal here? You're not law enforcement, so what is your goal when you do an evaluation?
Well, sometimes the evaluation might be just parent effectiveness. Sometimes you're assessing for substance abuse. But more often than not, it's an evaluation, psychological evaluation for mental health issues.
Okay. And did you, in fact, complete evaluations of both parties?
I did, yes.
Okay. Were these extensive evaluations?
As a solo practitioner, I pride myself on being thorough, so I would say yes, they were absolutely extensive.
Okay. So I want to talk about Ashley Benefield for a moment, specifically. In preparation for your evaluation, did you review documents?
Part of any thorough evaluation would be looking at not just collateral contacts, interviewing other people, but collateral data, which would be whatever records are presented pertaining to the case and the family situation.
Okay.
In addition,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. In addition to the fact that I typically will ask the parties, the parents in this case, if they had anything else they wanted to share with me by way of, diaries, journals, photos, videos, whatever they might have. So the more data I have, the more inclusive it can be.
And you said collateral contacts. Do you make those contacts?
Yes.
Okay.
Seems like we're going awfully far afield from what the court ruled.
I'm going to overrule. I don't think we've gone into things I've ruled not to go into, but
Okay.
What?
As part of your work specifically with Ashley Benefield, did you meet with her?
Yes, I did.
And did you meet with her alone? Or together?
In conducting these kind of evaluations, there's a series of individual
hold on 1
interviews.
second.
Oh,
Is there an objection?
Yeah, she interrupted the witness who was attempting to answer the question.
Okay. Overruled. Go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. Did you meet with Ashley by herself?
yes, I did.
Okay. Did you also meet with her with other people?
I did a home site visit, so yes, I saw her and her daughter and her mother, as well as I'd seen her and her mother in my office, and I've seen her with just Emerson. And on a separate occasion, I'd seen her and Doug together, both in terms of conducting the exchange of their daughter at my office, as well as a joint meeting.
Okay. And when you say joint meeting, is that one where they sat with you and did therapy together?
Not therapy, it's an interview for the evaluation.
An interview for the evaluation. Okay. So how many times did you meet with them together? Do you recall?
I believe at least twice where we had a formal meeting, different than when they would exchange Emerson. And the
Okay.
point of the exchange in my office, just to share, is that it's important in the evaluation to oversee and evaluate, to observe how the child responds, leaving one parent, going to the other parent, how the parent handles the child in the separation, particularly because at that time Emerson was just under 2.5 years old.
Okay. So she was pretty young, a toddler.
2 years, 4 months.
Okay. During your contacts with Ashley, how did she present when you first met her?
Objection. Beyond the scope of the court's ruling. The court's ruling was that Dr. Broder would be entitled to testify to his observations upon all parties being present, Ashley Benefield, Douglas Benefield, and Emerson.
And I'm sorry, go ahead. You look like
Yeah,
you
go
were going to
ahead.
speak. Judge, I don't know that this has anything to do with the court's ruling. This is his evaluations of Ashley, specifically her mannerisms, her speech, what she says is all relevant.
How?
Because it goes to the allegations that were made about the child abuse, then the fact that now someone is evaluating her, now the fact that she is attempting to manipulate the evaluator goes towards the motive of the entire case.
Sustained.
What did Ashley tell you about her relationship with Doug?
Objection. Once again, beyond the scope of the court's ruling.
No, I said defendant statements we didn't get into. We didn't talk about the limits. Defendant statements weren't limited in any way. But with that said, so it's not a violation of the ruling I just made a few minutes ago, but maybe there's other objections that may be relevant or appropriate as we go through.
Okay.
But no, I mean, defendant statements they're allowed to come in under the rules. It's just a matter of whether they're relevant to any particular issues.
Did you speak with Ashley about her plans for the future with or without Doug Benefield?
Yes, that certainly came up in the scope of the overall evaluation.
And what did she say about that?
She made it very clear on more than one occasion that she had no intention of reconciling with Doug, and that she had every intention of relocating to Maryland with her mother and Emerson, particularly because her grandmother had passed away and her mother had inherited that home so she could return to her native home state of Maryland.
And did she indicate to you that she was going to go without Doug? Go to Maryland without Doug?
Again, in several different occasions, she had indicated that was her intention. She did not want him to come along with her. There was some email exchanges indicating that she was trying to make that happen. He had made it clear that he was going to be going there and thought that he'd be moving in with them, which she clearly made clear to me that that was not going to happen.
Okay. So she made clear to you that he is not moving in, we are not getting back together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did she say those things and act that way during the joint session with Doug?
No.
Okay. How was it different?
It was different in that her presentation of herself was more deferential to Doug because her goal, as she had shared with me, was to, in essence, kind of appease him, go along with him, because she was concerned he might get angry and blow up. So she wanted to just kind of go with the flow, as the expression is, and therefore she was willing to go out to lunch or go to a movie or hang out with him and Emerson. So she was not going to present that ultimate goal, certainly not with me. In those sessions, it didn't come up.
Okay. Did you talk to her about the suspected poisoning in the past? Or did she mention it to you?
That was an issue that came up, yes.
Okay. And did she believe she had been poisoned?
She was suspicious. She admitted that she didn't know for...
Jeff, he's died. She's calling for an opinion as to the substance of the comments. Did she believe?
Yeah, I mean, to the extent it asked for an opinion, I mean, we're talking about statements. What did she say?
Okay.
What were your observations?
What did she say to you about the poisoning and whether she believed or not that she was poisoned?
She had a very definite concern, a fear that he might have attempted to poison her. She was concerned first with during her pregnancy and felt ill, and then when she delivered the baby, she even stopped, didn't even want to attempt breastfeeding for fear that she had been poisoned. So she had refrained from that and went so far as to ascertain a toxicology report to that effect.
Okay. And did she ultimately admit and say, well, okay, maybe he didn't poison me?
I don't know if she certainly didn't say it that way, no.
How would she have said it?
She said, she explained to me a bunch of physical symptoms she had, and she was worried for Emerson, and she did admit that she did not know if he had poisoned his former wife, Renee, but she had that suspicion, but she could not say conclusively that he had attempted to poison her, no.
Okay. And did she indicate to you that something about, I know you're the professional here, but do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I believe you're referencing towards the end of the evaluative period. She wanted a resolution, and she was very frustrated with the system, CPT, the courts, Judge Moreland, et cetera, because she felt no one was helping Emerson, no one was doing anything. I put it in my report that she declared, I'm the expert and I'm not doing anything, and what's going to happen, she'll have to take matters into her own hands.
Okay. So she indicated to you that she specifically had a problem with the authorities, MSO, CPT, CPI.
That is correct.
Okay. And at some point, did she say to you she needed all this to be done, we're running out of time?
Yes, she did.
Tell me about that. What did she say?
It was during that same interview session where she really wanted to just kind of be able to move on with her life. She was looking forward. She explained to me that her mother had retained the hope of a realtor to sell her home in the Lakewood Ranch area, that they were preparing to move. That was her intention. So she just was hoping to relocate, reestablish herself. She shared with me that if she had been able to establish a permanent residence of at least 6 months, that she could then appeal to the authorities, the Child Protective Service authorities in the state of Maryland, in hopes that they would help her.
Okay. And was she frustrated at you because you weren't helping her?
Objection.
To the extent it calls for speculation, if she made words, then that's one thing, but
Did she ever express frustration or anything that would have led you to believe she was frustrated with you?
Objection. What she said. Did she say that?
yeah, that's how I take it. I mean, hopefully I'm being very clear. We're talking about not speculation or what you think or what you guess or what might have been. We're talking about words that were uttered by that person over there.
Ashley expressed her frustration at the overall situation. To the extent that I was part of that situation, then yes, but she never specifically singled me out.
Okay. And did she indicate to you that Doug was still abusing Emerson? Or that she thought Doug was still abusing Emerson?
Not at that point, because they, at her initiative, had agreed to basically spend time with Emerson together as a family. And so there were no, during the course of my evaluative process, there were no complaints or fears about that, which she attributed to her presence.
Did she discuss with you the past allegations of abuse against Doug?
She explained each one of them, yes.
Okay. And, but she said after that they were living as a family.
Not living, they did not live or stay together. They didn't even have any intimate relations. They would do things like take Emerson to the beach or go to his condominium unit to the pool, or they would go out as a couple for dinner and grandma would watch the baby and things like that.
But Ashley told you she had no intention of being with him.
Unequivocally.
Okay. During the time that you spoke with Ashley, did she ever say that Doug physically harmed her?
Not physically, no.
Okay. Did she ever say that she was afraid of Doug being violent with her?
She explained the gun incident in their kitchen in their South Carolina home, and that was certainly a frightening experience for her.
Okay. But did she say that would have been 4 maybe years before, correct? Before you were meeting with her?
I'll sustain.
Was that incident, did it just happen or was it a long time before?
It was well before my involvement.
Okay. Did she complain of any other things, acts of violence or aggression from Doug since then?
What she explained to me about Doug was that she felt that he had a violent temper. They would get into these yelling, screaming matches, and he would punch holes in the wall. Again, that was again in their home in South Carolina.
Okay.
None of that was recent during the time I was involved with them.
Okay. So during the time that you talked with her, she never brought up anything more recent than South Carolina for violence?
If she didn't say it, it's not included in what she did say to him.
Overruled. Go ahead.
Did she give you any examples of Doug's violence, any more recent than South Carolina?
No.
Okay. Did she indicate to you that she was afraid of him while she was talking to you?
You mean in the individual sessions? With
Yes.
Just she and
Yes.
I? She did not present as fearful or worried about that, no.
Okay. When was the last time that you saw them? Do you recall?
Approximately late August. This is 2020.
And when did you do your report?
I believe it was submitted on or about mid-September, I think the 14th of 2020.
Okay. So when a report is submitted, it gets submitted to CPT?
The work product is the property of the child protection team, so that who handles it and anyone else who wants to see it would have to get a court order from the judge.
Okay, so even the people that you're interviewing have to get a court order to get that evaluation?
That is correct.
Okay. Did your sessions with Ashley and Doug together, did you have any concerns for the safety of Ashley or the baby after your sessions?
I did not.
No further questions?
Cross?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Dr. Broder. I'm Neil Taylor. I have a few questions I'd like to ask you.
Certainly. Good evening to you, too.
Only because it's the most recent, so we'll all remember it. And I recognize we're asking you questions that you're trying to answer from memory, which is not the easiest thing given the time that has transpired. But do you recall testifying at a dependency hearing?
Objection is this?
Sustained.
Okay. Are you certain about your statement that Ms. Benefield did not express fear of Douglas Benefield to you in the past and continuing in the summer of 2020?
My notes in my report reflect that she had certainly expressed fear that Doug could not parent Emerson, and she was not comfortable with him having Emerson, like for an overnight, for example, so she wanted to do whatever she could to block that.
Right, may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Okay.
Let me pass this to you and see if this helps refresh your recollection. Does that help refresh your recollection as to whether or not Ms. Benefield during the summer of 2020 expressed to you that she was afraid of Douglas Benefield?
Yes, based upon the previous experiences in South Carolina.
All right, now, the judge has restricted us, as Ms. O'Donnell told you, to things that Ms. Benefield told you. And you've been very candid and helpful, but I want to just ask you a few additional questions. She told you, among other things, did she not, that Doug had he was very angry with a real temper?
She expressed that he would get very angry, yes.
She expressed to you, told you, that he was very controlling.
She certainly felt he was controlling, yes.
Yeah. In fact, I believe she said to you that he was highly manipulative.
I don't know if she used those exact words, but she felt that he was controlling, yes.
Let me see if I can refresh your recollection. May I approach him, Your Honor?
Yes.
Brother, see if that refreshes your recollection as to whether or not Ms. Benefield told you that Doug Benefield was highly manipulative in those exact words.
That's my statement, yes.
She told you that he was very intense,
Yes,
that he punched holes in the wall,
that's true.
fired a gun in the ceiling of the kitchen, and she discussed with you her fear that he'd poisoned his first wife and perhaps her as well.
She admitted that she didn't have any proof of that, but she was suspicious that he had poisoned Renee, and that she therefore had similar suspicions that he might attempt to get rid of her.
All right, and lastly, I want to ask you, you mentioned, and I think the word that you used was appeasement. This was the strategy that Ms. Benefield told you she employed for going along with Douglas Benefield in an effort to protect her child, Emerson, correct?
She felt the best way to protect Emerson was to appease him, yes.
Yes. I believe the way you characterized it was to keep him, Douglas, at bay.
Yes.
Nothing further.
All right,
Thank you, Doctor.
redirect.
So defense just asked you about Ashley saying she would go along with Doug to protect Emerson, to keep Doug at bay, correct? Did you have any concerns about Doug being with Emerson?
Objection.
The door has been opened, Judge.
Court's ruling.
You know what? I'm going to allow it. I think the question was asked. Go ahead.
Did you have any concerns about Doug being with Emerson alone?
Well, let's put that in context. When you're doing these kind of evaluations, you have all sorts of hypotheses to start out with. But as part of the evaluation, I have to see parent and child together, both in terms of the separation from one parent to the other, as well as their interaction. After observing him with Emerson, and the first time just happened to be due to scheduling issues at his own apartment, I did not have any concerns at all.
Okay. And did you observe the two of them together?
Yes.
The child and the father?
Yes.
Okay. And was there anything about their interaction that stood out to you?
Emerson had been with her dad in the pool that afternoon prior to my arrival, and when I got there, she had just woken up from a nap. I was a complete stranger to her, and she therefore clung to her father and stayed on his lap and cradled herself, and he was comforting her and soothing her. And I kept my distance as he and I talked, and it was pretty clear that even as she's waking up, she was looking to him for comfort.
Okay. And so Ashley says she's staying with Doug just to protect her daughter. But this is a situation where CPT and law enforcement had all been involved, and it culminates in you. And did you have any concern about Doug being with his daughter?
Again,
I'll sustain. That's been asked and answered.
So Ashley said to you that Doug could be violent or angry, punch a hole in a wall, things that happen in South Carolina, correct?
Yes.
Did she ever say anything to you like, I am so scared he comes after me all the time?
No, she never used that expression or that phrase.
Did she ever say, I was afraid any time that he was going to hit me?
No, she never expressed that at all.
But yet she's scared because he's so violent. Correct. She said she's scared of him because he has a violent tendency.
Yes, but the context was typically about how can she best protect Emerson, and how come I and the rest of the quote-unquote system were not doing enough to protect Emerson.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
nothing further.
All right. Can the witness be released?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. Sir, you're released from your subpoena. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You take water with you if you want.
Good.
Dare I ask? Oh. Well, then you solve that issue.
Yes.
I was going to be the bad guy and say, call the next one. But that was not a popular opinion, just so you know. All right. Any idea? Can you give me an idea for planning purposes for tomorrow?
Judge, I think it will be the defense case tomorrow.
Okay. I'm not, so don't rest yet, but,
No, I won't.
all right. So be ready. You may be,
Yes, sir.
they may call you from the bullpen right away, all right?
Signal for the right.
All right, anything that we need to cover tonight before I let you go?
I don't think so.
All right. Defense, good. All right, so we'll get started tomorrow. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I think I have something. Let me just check, because I got a demand for speedy trial. Let me just make sure I didn't schedule that for tomorrow morning. No. It's you guys all day, so you're all set.
Okay.
8:30? 8? You want to start at 8?
No, we're good.
Oh, I thought you wanted to go earlier.
We're good, Judge. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you
All
very much.
right. We'll see you at 8:30 tomorrow morning. And listen, hey, I know traffic has been horrible. So if you run into some traffic issues, please don't anybody stress about that. All right. If we're a few minutes late because of that, we're just fine. Don't worry.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you.
Okay. See you tomorrow morning.
You want me to hold on to this and I'll put it back up there for tomorrow? If I ask you, I'm going to.
There is more to come in the Ashley Benefield Stand Your Ground hearing. We're bringing it to you all weekend long here on the Hidden Killers podcast. Press subscribe so you don't miss a minute of courtroom coverage. I'm Tony Bruschi. Stay with us.